This will be the simplest but the most important video that I make for this channel, and that is because in the next 4 to 5 minutes I'm going to break down the exact law that I am using to be able to create whatever reality I want, or the reality of my dreams. Now, I know that's a bold statement, but the reality is I'm living in Costa Rica doing whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, whilst building the business of my dreams. And that is because I have learnt and I'm continuing to master this law. Now, you may be thinking, what is this law? Well, it's not the law of attraction or the law of detachment or anything like that. It's probably a law that you've maybe never heard of, because most people that know of this law don't really want you to truly understand it because of its true power. So in the next couple of minutes, I am going to break down exactly what it is, how you can start to master it yourself to be able to bend your reality in whatever ways possible. I'm not here to withhold any secrets, and the whole purpose of this channel is to make sure you have all of the information and all of the necessary things to be able to elevate your awareness and become the best individual possible. So without further ado, let's jump into exactly what this law is, how you can implement it into your day-to-day life in order to achieve any goal that you want, and most importantly, make clear, precise decisions to be able to step closer towards the reality that you want. So the law I'll be teaching here is the law of self-observation. The great couple, Naval Ravikant's mentor, once said that freedom doesn't come from materialistic items. Freedom itself comes from freedom of the mind. And if you truly think about that, what we are consistently trying to achieve in life is happiness or freedom, so to say, but the only freedom is the freedom from within the voice inside here, or the mind itself. So let me break down exactly how I mean by that and exactly the layers of this law so you have complete comprehension of what I'm speaking about. What is the law? Well, like I mentioned, the law is called self-observation. Quite simply, you are the awareness behind the mind, not the mind itself. The mind is what's happening. You are watching it happen. Now, that's the law. Most people live their whole entire lives inside their mind, right? They never sit in the seat behind it to be able to truly observe the law. They don't even know that there is a seat. And to put it simply, the mind is the noise, and you are the one who hears that noise. So it's so important to be able to zoom out and be able to listen to the noise that the mind is creating, and then make precise decisions from that noise, so to say. Now, there are 2 layers to this law, 2 layers that are operating at all times. Layer 1 is the mind, quite obviously, right? The mind is always ticking, the mind is always thinking, it's always creating, etc. Layer 1 is the thoughts, the emotions, the reaction. A good analogy I like to use is layer 1 is the weather, right? Now, this will make sense as I continue. Layer 2 is the observer, okay? The awareness itself. Let's call it, for the analogy, layer 2 is the sky. Okay, so I'll make more sense of that. The mind is loud, the observer is silent. The mind reacts, the observer chooses. Thoughts are the weather. You are the sky. The weather changes every hour, the weather changes every day. The sky never moves. It's always very stable. It's obviously always there. So it's quite important that we start to tap into becoming the sky, so to say. Now, I know that seems funny, but when you actually think about that and you actually realize, if I am the sky that is stable, that consistently observes the weather that's going on, I will have so much power and so much control of my emotions, the decisions that I make, the actions that I take, and the reality that I start to create. A question that I quite often get asked around this law when I'm teaching it to certain different individuals, the teams that I work with, the business owners that I work with, is why is this law truly freedom? Well, it's quite interesting, right? So let me break that down. Inside the mind, emotions run you. Okay, think about that on a day-to-day basis. We're consistently controlled by our emotions. Anger spikes inside of us, we react, or you react. Fear spikes, you often obey because we want to avoid fear at all costs. That's just the nature of who we are. Doubt spikes and you stop. right? As soon as you're doubtful or you get a seed of doubt or that emotion rises of, oh, is this the right thing? It's quite often we stop and we don't go down the path of most resistance because we want the path of least resistance. So why is this law true freedom? Well, outside of the mind, you watch the same emotions arise and you choose what to do with it. And that's the most important part. And that's true freedom, right? Being able to truly control yourself. The greatest philosophers across every era have pointed at the same thing. Real freedom isn't external. Real freedom comes from internal state. A man inside his mind can live in a villa, right, and still be in a prison. A man in the seat of awareness can be in a prison but feel like he is living in a villa, or more importantly, still be free, right? So it's quite deep when you realize that, again, freedom doesn't come from external realities or external things. It truly comes from here and freedom of the mind so that you can live peacefully, so to say. Now, this is the common trap that I quite often see, and this is where most people do go wrong. So please, if there's anything that you can take away from this video, please understand and try to avoid this common trap. Self-observation is not suppression. You are not pushing emotions down. So when I say you're observing, you're not pushing emotions down. You're not avoiding emotions. You're not listening to emotions. Self-observation is not avoidance. You're not running from anything like I just mentioned. You let the emotions rise. You see it, but you don't grab it. You're not attached to it. Detachment is numbness. Observation is freedom. You're not attached to it because attachment is numbness. Observation is freedom. They look the same from the outside, but they are the opposite from the inside. You are not above your emotions, okay? There's no way that you can truly become above your emotions. You are just behind them, viewing them, seeing these emotions rise and being in complete control of them. I just want to touch on the uncomfortable truth, first of all, because this is the part that nobody wants to hear, and this is arguably the most important part. If you've never sat in the seat of the observer, every decision you've ever made was by the mind, not by you. It was made by the weather, by the conditions of the sky, not the sky itself. Every job, every relationship, every dream you've talked yourself out of, that was the mind reacting to different feelings, to different emotions, right? I always like the analogy of every dream that you've once had or every dream that you haven't pursued because of certain emotions that arise when you're thinking about that dream. Fear, anxiety, doubt, stress, often push that dream away. Whether if we were sitting in the seat of observation the entire time, we would be able to realize that that's just the mind playing tricks on us, because how often does that voice just consistently play tricks on us? So to summarize that, the real you has been watching your life unfold the whole time. Obviously, you've never known it was an option to sit there and observe it. You've spent your entire life inside a closed room that you quite simply maybe didn't know there was a door to actually view the room from above. And that's the skill that I want to be able to help implement into your life and help teach you, so that you can truly understand that once you're outside of the room, once you're outside of this little box that we quite often put ourselves in, you can make the most clear, precise, cut decisions to be able to achieve whatever your mind has for you or whatever you truly want to achieve. But if you stay inside this box, again, you're caged, you're reactive, you're consistently making decisions that maybe aren't truly you because they're just emotions of doubt inside of you making the decisions for you. So a practice that I simply want to install for you is this. It's 4 simple moves. First of all, it's so important to zoom out, okay? And this is exactly how you achieve the law, right? There's no hidden bits and pieces here. This is the exact steps that I consistently take in order to make decisions, and pretty much how I live my day every single day, or how I live my life every single day, I should say. So number 1, zoom out. And this is so interesting, right? Because we quite often feel that our problems are so big, they're so large, our problems are everything. right? How often do you feel like that? But the moment that you zoom out, now when I say zoom out, you watch yourself from above, or you even zoom out from the exact location that you're in to the point where you're viewing the whole earth, right? You've seen probably those videos where they zoom out and it goes through the galaxies and into space, and you realize how small we are. It's such an interesting perspective, and it's such an interesting skill to be able to have or to be able to use, because the moment that you zoom out, you realize, my problems aren't that large, and simply I can just move around these problems, but you never realize that if you don't zoom out. A great example of this that one of my mentors, said to me, or a quote that my mentor gave me was, if I was to put all of your problems in a hat, right, in one hat, and then I put all of the world's problems, or every single other person in the world's problems, in another hat, which hat would you want to wear, or which hat would you choose to wear? Would you choose the world and other people's problems, or would you simply accept your problems? Now, quite often you would probably say your own problems, because you wouldn't even want to go into this hat of different problems or extreme problems, because you realize, my problems aren't that large compared to everyone else's out there. So the moment that you zoom out, the moment that you see that, you're able to, again, and the whole point of this law is to make clear-cut decisions. Picture yourself from above, like a camera floating 10 feet behind your head, like I just mentioned. The shift in perspective triggers the shift in identification. Once an hour, reseat yourself. And you don't even have to do this every hour, right? You can just do it in moments where you feel a little bit stressed, maybe you feel anxiety, or you feel as though you have to make a decision. Step number 2, it's the naming stage, or the naming pause. So what that means is, when an emotion arises, and if you've ever read the book Letting Go, this is exactly what they teach, but when an emotion arises, name it. Name it very neutrally, okay? Anger is present, fear is present, doubt is present. When I realize that, I can start to observe it, okay? So I'm not angry. That fuses you with the emotion. So when you say, I am angry at you, you obviously fuse. That's your identity. You are angry. But when I simply go, anger is present inside of me, I'm not attached to that emotion. And when you are not attached to that emotion, you can simply let it arise and observe it, and then simply let it go and continue to move forward, addressing whatever problem or whatever caused that anger to come up. Step number 3 is observing that emotion, like I just mentioned. So I've kind of covered this point, but I'll make it really clear. After you've named what's arising, you don't move. You watch it, you let the emotion peak, and this is quite interesting. So this is a neuroscience fact here. You let the emotion peak, and then you let it start to fade. The fade takes 90 seconds in most cases. Your nervous system, right guys, and this is quite powerful. So if there's anything that you can take away from this video, take away this exact fact. Your nervous system literally cannot hold a spike longer than that, longer than 90 seconds, without you feeding it. So you have emotions arise. Now simply, they will disappear. If you don't feed that emotion, they will disappear within 90 seconds, and you'll be able to continue on your day-to-day or continue on your life. But because we feed that emotion, because we buy into it, because we believe that's us, it consumes our whole day, our whole week. And in some cases, with some individuals that I've worked with, those emotions that arise from certain situations consume their entire life, and they continue to make decisions from that emotion, because they're attached to it, because they identify themselves with that emotion. So simply name it, zoom out, let it peak, because you're not feeding it, because you're observing it, and then let it go. And from there, you'll be able to move forward with step 4, or stage 4, which is ask and act. So ask is, what would the version of me in the observer seat choose here? So what of the version of me, when I'm sitting in the seat of observation, when I'm sitting in the seat of self-observation, what decision or what direction would I choose? Now that I've seen this emotion rise, what decision would I choose? And that way, again, quite simply, you can act from there very cleanly, very precisely, with exactly the steps that you need to take to be able to achieve X goal or whatever you're trying to achieve in your life. So that's simply the practice. Now, I know I've repeated myself a couple times, but it is so important, because we don't need new knowledge. We just need to be reminded of what we already know. So now you already know about this law of self-observation. It's very important to consistently remind ourselves of this exact law. So I'll leave you with this final note. The work isn't getting rid of the mind. You can't get rid of the mind. Obviously, it's us, it's who we are. It keeps generating, right? The work is finding the seat behind it and returning to it over and over until that seat of observation feels like home. Every time you remember that you're the one watching, you're free again. Freedom isn't a place you arrive at. It's a seat that you keep returning to. Just remember that. Freedom isn't a place that you arrive at. Very similar to happiness. It's not a destination. It's just the seat that you continue to return home to. So when you are truly chasing freedom, so to say, just realize you can easily escape or achieve freedom by escaping the mind and sitting in the seat of the observer. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the law of self-observation.